You're sitting in church on Holy Thursday evening. The Mass is going beautifully. And then, the priest takes off his vestments, gets down on his knees, and starts washing people's feet. And if you've never seen it before, your first reaction is probably, what is happening right now? And even if you have seen it before, maybe you've never really stopped to ask, why? Why feet? Why this night? What does this actually mean? Because trust me, this is not just a tradition Catholics kept around because it looks nice. This moment is one of the most theologically loaded things that happens in the entire liturgical year. Welcome to Catholic Unlocked. Let's get into it. To understand Holy Thursday, you have to go back to the upper room. It's the night before Jesus dies. He knows what's coming. And you'd think, if you knew you had less than 24 hours to live, you'd spend that time doing something significant. Something powerful. Maybe a final sermon. A miracle. A declaration. And Jesus does do something significant. But it's not what anyone expected. He gets up from the table, wraps a towel around his waist, pours water into a basin, and begins washing his disciples' feet. Now, to understand how shocking this was, you need to understand the culture. In first-century Jewish society, washing feet was the job of the lowest servant in the household. Not just any servant, the lowest one. It was considered so beneath dignity that Jewish law actually said a Jewish servant should not be asked to wash feet. That was reserved for Gentile slaves. And here is Jesus, whom the disciples have called Rabbi, Lord, Messiah, on his knees. Doing the work of a Gentile slave. Peter, predictably, loses it. Lord, you will never wash my feet. And Jesus says something striking, unless I wash you, you have no part with me. That line deserves to sit for a second. This isn't just about humility as a lesson. Jesus is saying, this washing, this act of service, is participation in him. It's connection. It's belonging. After he washes their feet, Jesus sits back down and explains himself. And this is where it gets really beautiful. He says, do you understand what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. And yet I have washed your feet. So you also ought to wash one another's feet. I have given you an example, that you should do just as I have done to you. Now notice, Jesus doesn't say, I did this to teach you a lesson about being humble. He says, I gave you an example, do the same. This is an institution. A commissioning. Jesus is not just demonstrating an attitude, he is establishing a way of life for his followers. A pattern. A rhythm. And then he says something that summarizes the entire Christian ethic in one line, the servant is not greater than his master. If the Lord of the universe can get on his knees for the people he loves, then there is no act of service beneath the dignity of a Christian. None. So the Catholic Church, every Holy Thursday, reenacts this moment during the Mass of the Lord's Supper. The priest, who represents Christ, washes the feet of 12 people from the congregation. Originally it was 12 men. But in 2016, Pope Francis changed the rubrics to allow women and people of all backgrounds to be included, reflecting that Jesus washed all his disciples, not just some. And this isn't just theater. It's not a performance to make Mass more interesting. The Church calls this the Mandatum, from the Latin word for commandment, because Jesus said, a new commandment I give you, love one another as I have loved you. That word, Mandatum, is actually where we get the name Maundy Thursday, which is what many other Christian traditions call this day. The foot washing is the Church saying, we have not forgotten the command. Every year, on this night, we get back on our knees. We remember that the greatest among us is the one who serves. Here's the thing that I want you to take away from this. Holy Thursday is not just about admiring what Jesus did. It's about being confronted by it. Because Jesus didn't wash feet as a one-time spectacle. He washed feet and then said, "Now you do it." And the "it" he's talking about isn't literally feet, though it can be. He's talking about the posture. The willingness to go low. The refusal to say, "That's not my job," or "That person doesn't deserve my time." In a world that is obsessed with status, influence, and being seen, the Christian call is radically different. It is to find the lowest place and serve from there. And maybe this Holy Week, the question worth sitting with is, whose feet is Jesus asking you to wash? Who in your life needs you to go low for them? Who needs your time, your attention, your service, even when it costs you something? Because the cross is coming on Friday. But before the cross came the basin and the towel. And that sequence was not an accident. If this video helped you understand Holy Week a little more deeply, share it with someone who's curious. Subscribe to Catholic Unlocked. We're here every week to help you go deeper in your faith. Have a blessed Holy Thursday. And go serve somebody.